All right. We are going to let you streaming settle Thibaut and Kyle here. Um, Usually we start like 1 minute after the hour to give you everybody time to do this. But let me just check out why everybody's settling. So Kyle, you're here. Where are you today?
I'm over in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's home for me. So right outside of the Smoky Mountains and southeast, getting ready to enjoy some lovely spring break time. And we've got some nice weather right now. So excited to be here with you, Tebow. Where are you at?
I am in Amsterdam and it's sunny as well, so I'm not sure what's happening here. It's a very lucky day. All right, I think there's 40 of you now. Let's get started. So I'm Thibaut. I'm the head of product marketing here at PriceLabs. So my team and I have been working on the maybe the newsletter you got to invite you to be here. So I'm very happy you took the time to be here with us live, and I am with the one and only Kyle.
Hey guys, I'm a senior solutions consultant with PriceLabs. So I work with some of our larger customers and understanding the tool, how to pull levers, how to interpret the data that they're seeing, and just how to really maximize and how to maximize and leverage the tool to get the best out of their business.
We of course have slides for you to talk about Easter. We have also some live things to show you. But before we get started, just curious in the chat, can you let us know where you're based and maybe how many properties you have so we have a good feel of who you are and where you are so you can try to customize this. Number one. Number two, obviously, as usual, you have a Q&A button. Just use the Q&A button if you have a question. We have here Rafael and Aditya. They're here in a chat or in a Q&A, sorry, also ready to answer any question you may have. And we'll pick a few questions in the end, save some time in the end for any question you may have. Last thing for housekeeping, this is of course is being recorded, but do stay until the end, especially if you want to ask your own question. Anything I forgot, Kyle, before started?
No, I think that's good. Let's keep the questions in the Q&A. That way our team can get to you and we can send those answers out afterwards if we need to as well. I will say, looking at everybody that's coming in here, I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so it's about 11 o'clock for me. There's a whole bunch of people on Pacific time zone, so starting their morning with us, that's really cool to see. Also see a lot of people over in Europe that are winding down their day with us as well. So it's always
Yeah.
fun to be a part of these and see where everybody's coming from.
And people from Indonesia, I guess it's late evening, selamat malam, I'm guessing. So good to see you. As we see Utah, Canada, I see Europe as well. So we cover quite a few markets, mainly in US and Europe. But obviously, what we talk about is true for a lot of this because this is a global date. All right, let's get started. I've got a couple
Exactly.
of slides.
Doesn't matter if it's Birmingham, Alabama, or Birmingham, England. The Easter stuff is gonna be important for everybody in every market. So
Yeah, and so I'm gonna get started with the topic again. Not showing slides yet, but 6 weeks from now, Easter weekend will come and go, right? And the question is, will your properties be fully booked at the high rates, or will you be scrambling to adjust prices last minute? Obviously, you're price up customers, you kind of know what you're doing, so I'm pretty sure it's the first first choice for you. But why did we pick Easter 2025? You're gonna see this. It's very different this year from last year. So we want to be practical, share with you the why and the how. And I'm sharing now my slides to get started. Hopefully, you guys can see this. Boom.
yeah, and as Tebow's getting this shared, just kind of following along with what we were talking about with Easter, it's so unique in how far the date has moved. A lot of you may have very specific events in your area where, it's a motorcycle rally or it's a wine festival or anything like that. And, those dates usually move like one weekend to another. It's so rare to have something that moves, 3 weeks in advance. So it's really cool to kind of be able to hit these and really talk about the impact and how Easter moving is going to impact your business. So
Indeed. Quick plug before we get started. Practically for the trainings, as you know, we have free trainings. If you have somebody new in your team, for example, do send them to the trainings. The link is being shared, I think, in a chat right now, so it's easy for you to do this. From basics, advanced market dashboard, portfolio analytics, we are going to be talking about all this today, as in the tools you should be using for Easter. So you're going to see, if you don't know these tools, free training, just go ahead. Also, we have them as recordings on YouTube. So live is always better, but why not use the YouTube channel as well? All right,
Absolutely.
so yeah. So what's special about Easter? Let's get started. So why did we think we should do something about Easter? That's kind of what we said last year. Basically, Easter Sunday was on March 31st, which was during the first quarter of 2024, basically. And now we have Easter pretty late on April 20th, which is not only later than usual, I would say. And on top of this, obviously, it's in Q2. So if we were just saying, oh, we're going to look at, year-on-year data or quarter-over-quarter, it's a big impact. But obviously, I'm guessing you already know that, you know the date of Easter, but you can see already how probably has impacted maybe your forecast for Q1 versus Q2 versus last year, and how, if you're a property manager, how you've organized this, or if you're a new manager, how you've already started, obviously anticipated this, and that when you have to report about this, how different all the explanations you have to give. And also some facts here is that it's later in the year, so for the US and Europe, it's warmer weather. Maybe destinations will shift a bit. Same thing. I can imagine that maybe people will be tempted to book different places versus in terms of vacation rentals. Maybe as well, things to remember is that if you have some things don't change. What I mean to say is that if you are, for example, in Europe, if your feeder market is Germany or France or Spain, you do know that for this big weekend, uh, people don't have the same day off. For some, it's Friday, some it's Monday. So obviously, this is not changing, but the dates are changing, obviously, for you. Um, Other kind of impact quickly on this one, just to show so the interaction with school breaks. But what I mean by school breaks, I'm not only thinking about in the US, but spring breaks. So the colleges, for example. This year, most colleges are having spring break now or a bit in the coming weeks, and means that Easter is falling out of this spring break period, right? Um, what does it change? Well, it changed things such as like why maybe people were traveling last year with their grown-up kids, not this year. That could change the shape of bookings or destinations. Um, Same thing, it means that suddenly Easter is a thing of its own, maybe less drowned into the whole spring break. Europe, different things. In Europe, for example, Germany and Spain did move their school break dates to somewhat match Easter. France did not. They call this spring holidays, and the spring holidays are actually happening. Last year did not. Easter did not fall during the spring holidays. This year it does. What I just meant to say is that the interaction is changed. That's changed a lot of patterns. And the last thing, and maybe here Kyle can chime in on this. It's not only the interaction with the school holidays. A lot of stuff may be happening around April 20th, right?
Yeah, yeah, there is, and I think there's so much that's going on with it being moved to that April 20th area. You mentioned earlier about like, okay, you had a little bit of extra spring break demand when it was on the 31st. I think about some heavy ski markets, and right now we're talking about the other events that can help drive it, but there are other things that are changed too. So last year for Easter, if you were in a heavy ski market like in Colorado, you were able to get those extra Easter bookings. You're able to get that extra drive in there. Well, now most of the peaks will be closed by the time Easter comes around. Thinking about Peak 9 in Breckenridge, Colorado, I think it's April 9th is when they will shut down. So talking about what Thibaut mentioned a few slides ago, that we're actually going to see people drifting more towards those warmer locations. Some of this is going to have to happen. And then you see here as well, like we've got Coachella Valley or the Coachella concerts coming up. Major sporting events will play into this as well. One thing I do want to mention about this, though, just before we get in and start looking at the data, spend a lot of time looking at Easter trends. We are seeing in some markets, because Easter has become its own little driver, that maybe people won't be coming in the same patterns that they have before. So Gulf Shores, Alabama is a really great spot to look at right now, where you see spring break does not have the same kind of drive that you would expect. Easter is definitely moving, but not moving at the same pace as other ones. You can look around if you know that area. There's a huge concert that's going to happen in May. People are spending their money for May. So being aware of all of these drivers and how they're going to impact your Easter and the ability to get that either top dollar or, hey, we need to switch it up and start going for occupancy. Super important moving forward.
And quickly, let's go around the room and do a show of hands. Well, a virtual show of hands. So if you could type +1 in a chat if you think that Easter 2025 in your market will be bigger than 2024. So just type +1 in a chat if you think that in your market Easter 2025 is going to be bigger than last year. Okay, so we have quite a few people. Um, okay, and now I'm just curious, who thinks Easter is going to be smaller? Just maybe type -1. Okay, it was same for okay, zero same. Okay, so it's all over the map. Okay, so that's why we should look probably at data. And that's also what we saw earlier, right? In some countries, some areas, things are Easter is actually in a school break holiday. Some for some it's not. So it's really again it comes down to how you know your market, right? You do this. It will show how PriceLabs has already taken that into account. I want to quickly move to crack open some reports here, and I quickly want to go. Can you guys see my market dashboard here? Yep. Okay, it's this market dashboard, a PriceLabs market reporting tool. We're looking at North Myrtle Beach, which is a market, and I'm pretty sure Kyle can comment with me here. He knows the market pretty well. But as we
Yeah,
said, uh, Easter last year was on, let's say, the last day of March. So that's the pacing. So we're looking at the occupancy pacing here. So basically, at the date of today, when we're looking at 2024, we could see that around that week that was going up to late of March, early April, the pacing was higher than it is today for the same dates, around the same dates. And obviously, what we see this year, that's going to the Easter date, it's pacing higher for the week right before this. So there's clearly we see a shift, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'm going to go now to Gatlinburg, which is a
Mhm.
market you may know pretty well. Do you want to comment that again? I would just want to stop at around April. So here we have the again the bump here in gray again is last year, the pacing last year, and in red is pacing this year. We see it was pacing higher last year, and this year it's you have to go until the week around.
Yeah, and this one's
This
really
one.
interesting. If you
Yeah.
look visually from March 23rd to April 6th, Gatlinburg had two great weeks that were specifically for spring break and for Easter as well. If we look over here at April 20th, where Easter is, it's actually pacing behind a little bit from where it was last year. Um, so what this kind of indicates to me is that maybe we're not going to see such a huge Easter drive for Gatlinburg. This to me kind of leads to what we were talking about earlier with those warmer destinations. Gatlinburg is going to be warm. The whole Smokies is going to be warm and nice and beautiful, and everything's going to be blooming again. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity for those people that are in, especially more economical beach markets to really capitalize during this period, in my opinion.
And I'm going to shift beach market. I'm going to shift to Florida. We're going to Okaloosa Islands. And I guess here, again, here we have March and here we have April. And you can see that basically last year was pacing way, way, way higher. And now that somewhat it's the same what you said. I'm not in the US, but do you think what we saw last year that was spring break on the beach, basically? That was what we could
Yeah.
see, right?
Yeah, that's more so spring break that we're looking at there. And one thing that's really important to keep in mind as we're looking at these graphs, the April 15th through 20th that we're looking at this year, we're comparing that to the March 27th through March 20 or March 31st of last year. But keep in mind that the booking window is super important because of this change that we've seen. you should see less occupancy right now on April 20th than what we saw on March 31st of last year. So keep that in mind that even though this red line is a little bit down on Easter compared to last year, we're still waiting. We're about, 20 days behind on pickup. So you've got 20 extra days to get bookings in here. I do expect this red line to start capitalizing as we get closer and closer to those days.
Yeah, that's such a great point indeed, right? People, we still 6 weeks to go, and we were comparing something that was like, the data as if it was taken, let's say, 5th of March 2024. We're looking at something happening like, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later. Now we're looking at something happening 6, 7 weeks later. As you said, there's way more time, bit more time, double weeks, number of weeks for those bookings to arrive, right?
Yeah,
To be fair. So I like this point because it's also limiting the not the panic, but the worry we could make here. So last
exactly.
last thing on the show, I'm going to go to the UK to Cotswold. Beautiful cottages there if you've ever been. See, you can clearly see the reverse effect of the school holidays in a way and Easter, right?
Hmm.
Last year, clearly you see things were high until well the week, sorry, the Easter weekend, and
Hmm.
then this year you can see it's reverse. It's clearly Easter weekend and school holidays attached to that are driving up the demand. And you sort of see the same thing in Crete. It's a bit more compressed, but you sort of see the same thing since that basically occupancy was higher running up to Easter, and now it's just higher around April 20th. So again, just to
Hmm.
say, each market obviously is different. You guys are the experts when it comes to your market. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna try to see what to do in terms of strategies. And again, having in mind, obviously, that depending on where you are, those things may need to be could be read differently, but we'll adapt to this. So let's get started. So, Kel, you want to get started on this one? Shall I take it? You want to?
Yeah, I can definitely take this. So segmenting your portfolio is super, super important. This is in regards to anything with revenue management, regardless of if you're just looking at Easter or you're looking a year in advance. You want to make sure that you segment like properties together. Um, the main reason for that is so that it's a little bit easier for you within pricing tools and all of that. But you also want to make sure that it's more specific. So if you have a super, super upper echelon property. We're talking like it's really the top 5% of properties in the area. You can do so much different, or you can have so many different strategies. You can keep your rates a lot higher. You can keep your minimum length of stay higher as well. So by going in there, segmenting your portfolio within PriceLabs, you can then go in and make sure that you are targeting exactly what you want. So I think we all know, if somebody's coming in and they're a large family, you've got 4 or 5 children in there, you're trying to get a 6 bedroom property booked up. You need to make sure, like, technically, we probably should have already got you booked up and made sure that those are in there. If you have couples, you can be a little bit more risky with it. They're going to be a little bit more price sensitive, but you can go in here and completely segment your portfolio, as we see here, looking at either the market type, your property type. I love segmenting based off of performance as well. So going in and having a group that's like, hey, these are mine that historically perform really high. I want them to have these types of tweaks to the process I'm trying to come up with, and then having one that's for properties that don't perform very well. That way I can go in there and be super, super aggressive. Um, Kind of as just a broad stroke across the board for Easter, the first lever that I would suggest anybody pulling is going to be your minimum length of stay. If
Mm.
you have a high minimum length of stay, if you're trying to get 4 nights or 5 nights, before you go in there and start discounting your rate, try to come off of that minimum length of stay a little bit. Um, I'm a big proponent of being visible. So not necessarily keeping your minimum length of stay really, really high. But right now, we're on the 5th of March. You should probably not be trying to get 7 night stays anymore if you're going for Easter bookings.
All right. And again, if you have any question, just use the Q&A thing or the chat. We have Aditya and Raphael here to answer, and also we'll pick some questions. to make sure it'll make sense. So if you think we don't make sense, let us know. um, Strategies around price and stay. You kind of hinted at this, but when you cover this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the really good things about PriceLabs is you didn't have to worry about Easter moving. This is it's really strange if you think about this April 20th thing. I did some Googling before we got in here. Easter has been on April 20th three times since 1930, and
Mm.
all three of those have been since 2003. There's a huge move to this because of the moon and all of that stuff and how Easter is calculated. But with Price Labs, we already have that taken care of for you. So you didn't have to go in and say, hey, lower my rates really low during the 31st because Easter doesn't exist anymore and increase my rates. We're already looking at that for you. So that's been in there since Easter of last year. And then we are talking a little bit, backwards as well. So the early planning phase, January, February, what we're talking about is making sure your rates are high so that you get any of those people that really, really want to come and get that property. Now, if you have, again, upper echelon of the properties, you can leave your rates kind of high for a little while if you want to. But now we're at that point where we should be checking in on things, looking at your market data,
Mm.
looking at demand. The best place in our tool for that, in my opinion, is going to be looking at a individual property's neighborhood data. But if you have market dashboards, you can look at your portfolio analytics and really compare easily in there and see it as well. So what I would say look for right now, as soon as we get off of this webinar, hop into your properties and start taking a look. See if your property's rate is around that 50th percentile of the market. Um, and this is kind of a broad stroke again. If you have an upper echelon property, this doesn't necessarily apply to you. If you're a low end property, you need to get in there and be below market price, in my opinion. But that's going to be the first thing to check. Check what your competitors are doing as well. So in neighborhood data, you have the compare competitor calendar. You don't have to put a ton of thought in it if you don't already have it. Just go pick 6 or 7 or 10 properties that are really close to you and see that your minimum length of stay is matching what they have. Try to get as much of a feel for what's going on right now. Um, in neighborhood data, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and not having it's making it a little bit difficult. But if you look at your future prices graph on neighborhood data, there's going to be 3 dots for you to click on. Once you click on that, you can see the market's 50th percentile booked price. That is a line I would add to my pricing graph to really make sure that you're matching kind of what the market is seeing. So that's what we've got in March. Get everything in line. Yeah, go ahead, Thibaut.
Yeah, two questions on this. So, or so the last thing you said, right? This line I would be adding is basically it's telling me at what price things have gotten booked, right? That's why it's so useful, you think?
Correct. So it's going to be your median price. It's not going to show, what the best properties have been booked for, but it's going to show you as long as we got 5 bookings on a date, you'll see that line and it's going to say like this is essentially where ultimately your rate's going to need to be at. It may end up needing to be a little bit lower, but it's a really good view. And if you don't, I'm not going to share my screen right now, but I will hopefully here in a little bit get to go into neighborhood data and then I'll pull back and reflect
Sure.
on that as well.
And I love this because it's exactly this like this midterm reality check we say we should be doing now. And another question for me, you mentioned also maybe we can see this later and that tell me. You mentioned how I can that was on listing level, on portfolio level, I can check portfolio analytics and you use market dashboard. Do you want maybe explain again how that works? Why would people use, sort of you create a market dashboard and import this?
Yeah, absolutely. Just for ease, do you care if I share my screen real quick and
Let's do
hop into
that.
one?
Let's
Yeah,
let's let's go live. Let's do it.
yeah, give me 1 second. And this is gonna be a shout out to one of my former bosses. Love you, Miss Jennifer Brown. She always told me, don't share data live. You'll make lots of mistakes. But hey, we got to make mistakes to learn, right? So give me 1 second and get this pulled up, and then I will share my screen for you. So everybody should be able to see my screen now. This is a demo slash dummy account. So please don't think I'm a terrible revenue manager because I have absolutely no occupancy. This is just for showing around. Um, But in here, so portfolio analytics, you've got all of these little extra things we're going to hop into and talk about. But if we come into our pacings report,
Mm.
I don't believe, let's say I'm in multiple areas. I can come and filter anyway. I'm going to filter to a city and I'm going to, let's say, Breckenridge. So I come in, oh, don't have any of those in there. So let's just forget the filter and show everything. Again, the data that we see in here is not going to be pretty because of what because I'm in a demo account, but this will take just a moment. And if you are familiar with the pacings report and portfolio analytics, you'll notice that this is pretty and shiny and brand new, and hopefully will start moving a lot faster over time. But all you got to do is come in here and you can select any market dashboards that you've got. So you can see I've got a bunch that I'm not subscribed to. Just to show you, I'm going to click my San Diego one. And this comp set's going to load up. I come up with all these pre-built comp sets. I've also built some really good ones. So let's compare my current rate, my occupancy, my ADR, my RevPAR to this comp set that I've built out that's 4 bedrooms that have pools. So hit update charts. Now all of a sudden I can come compare my entire portfolio, or if I want to, I can segment it as well a little bit further and look at just San Diego properties, which is the ideal way of doing this. Again, there's a lot going on in here, but in terms of getting really quick, good data, this is an awesome place for you to look. Real quick, because I had mentioned neighborhood data, I'm going to
Yeah,
show
and
you where
yes, what
that's
to
at.
say, and people are asking in the Q&A, so thanks for doing that, and that you're gonna
Absolutely.
make we're gonna make Nana happy. Nana who was asking about. Oh, sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so give us just a second to let this load up. It's got a little bit behind it, but you're going to see a whole plethora of information. So where I've gone, I went into my individual listing. You can see I clicked on neighborhood data right here. Again, this is looking like one of those things where we should not be going live, but I have all this. There's so much that you're looking at right now. So let me get this into its original state because I have all these extra little things clicked on here. So I'm gonna hide my last seen price. So basically what I'm looking at right here with future price, that black line is where my rate's at. The coloring behind it is going to be the market percentile. So the gray area, you can say, hey, that's really low in the market. If my rates below that are in there, I should have a really good chance of getting booked. If I'm up here in the pink or higher, you're probably going to struggle to get booked a little bit. Again, you can see I have a wonky selection up here. But what I was suggesting for you to kind of come in and look at was right here. You've got price evolution and then market booked price, 50th percentile. I can click on that. See, it added that little red, kind of like a
Mm.
maroon line for us. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab right here in this area. So now what I can see is right through here, I can see my March, I can see April. And if I were looking at this property, trying to make sure that I was in line, I could look at this and say, yep, I'm below what the market's 50th percentile is. This is an economical unit. I feel good with where my rate's at. Um,
And calculated, let's do a twin one.
yeah,
Here, I can see in the hover that you
yeah,
had, the window, that it did say Easter for,
correct.
as you said, right? It's like, obviously, we knew that Easter would be that date. It's been in there because there's
Mhm.
also a question in the thing just to tell us to confirm that the demand factor within PriceLabs did take into account that Easter this year was falling on that date, so they people then don't have to do crazy customization to say exactly as you said, right? That's reconfirming they don't have to um, try to apply this into price tab because we got their back here, obviously, right? It's in our system.
Correct. Yeah, and this listing that I pulled up is a dummy listing in Chicago. So Chicago's not a huge Easter market. Like people aren't really wanting to go in there, especially not April. Maybe, maybe if it were in June or something like that. But you can see we've got a 25% demand factor for this one. Real quick, let me hop out of here and let's go take a look at one of these other markets. So down here I've got this one's a pretty good one, Nevada City, California. I did a demo for a campground. So let's just take a look and see what we've got going on here. So you can see I've got some customizations in here where I've customized it and I've got a demand factor sensitivity of low. But let's go see what the rate looks like here. So you can see even with low sensitivity on demand, we're still increasing that rate slightly. So we're really trying to help maximize there. Hop out of that one and let's go take a look at Breckenridge.
And does it make sense to look at March 30th last to see what we are saying this year?
Absolutely. So
Wondering.
like, yeah, let's take a look right here for Easter. You can see we've got a huge demand factor. This to me, because we're in Breckenridge, my advice would be like, hey, okay, maybe we can get 1173, but unless they move those the peak closing dates, I would actually advise, hey, maybe we need to come back and tamper this one back a little bit.
Mm.
But let's go take a look at neighborhood data real quick and see. We looked at the pricing chart. I
Hmm.
didn't get a chance to hit that occupancy chart. So let's
Hmm.
give this a second to load up. And again, kind of looking at next year for this, let me change that up. Let's just look at the next 60 days. So if we're looking at the rate, we can kind of see right here, everything looks pretty good. We are still trying to maximize there. If I come down and look at the occupancy, right now we can see I'm looking at it this way monthly, but I'm going to switch this up and I'm going to look at it daily again. And I've got last year data in here. I've also got pickup. This button's really important, and I'm going to click it here in a second to show you. But I'm going to turn off last year final. So this choppy line up here is the final total that we were at. And now let's just look at occupancy this year versus last year. So reds this year, grays last year. We can see definitely crushed right here. We're at 0% occupancy versus 34% last year for this. We come over here into April, and you can see we do have a nice little bit of demand, even though the peaks may be closed. They may stay open a little bit later. I don't think we know at this point. But as of right now, it's April 9th. People are saying, hey, let's go ahead and get in here and stick around for a little bit. Now, I'm going to turn these off and I'm going to hit add pickup. And this is just going to be a small little line that comes down here, but it's going to show us over the past 7 days where people are actually booking right now. So right now we can see following the red line. We don't necessarily want to follow that gray line, but what we can see with the red line is, okay, right now, shorter booking windows getting booked up. Not a lot of activity right here. That's a spring break week that apparently has been lost from last year. You can kind of see that because market was at 5% on this Thursday. Now we're at barely 1%. We head over here to this, just a little bit of a move, not too much change there. But
And does
surprisingly
it?
enough,
Oh,
pickup
right.
is actually
Yeah.
lower right now. So this to me goes and says a little bit about like what I was talking about with that booking window. We've got 3 extra weeks. There's some questions about the market, so to speak. So this isn't being hit right now. It
Okay,
will
can you
be though.
explain?
Here in a few weeks, it's definitely going to be hit.
Can you explain again what pickup is for people?
Yeah.
This cadence, this new bookings that are arriving now.
Yep.
What's pickup in our graph here?
Yeah, pickup is the amount of bookings that are coming in over the past 7 days.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to turn this little red line on. And again, it's kind of small. If you want to, you can come in and zoom in a little bit more. But this gives us an idea of where consumers are actually booking in this market right now. If I go up, let's take a look and move that back to a full year. And again, I know we're talking about Easter, but I think this is important to understand too. You can come in and look. So we're talking about Easter, but this
Uh-huh.
pickup factor is really important. A majority of people in the past 7 days have been
Huh.
booking this Friday, August the 8th. What that is, not 100% sure. It may be, like a beer festival or some type of marathon or something like
Hmm.
that. Get down here, you can see people booking in December. Got a lot of people booking a year out now. So even though we're talking about Easter, I think it's important to understand how you can utilize this pickup to really understand what's happening in the market. And
That's
then,
fantastic.
yeah, here, let's add this back up and let me see if we correlate this. So this is August 7th. I'm going to come up here. It doesn't look like we've picked up on anything in August, but if I come over here, you've got all these metrics that you can look at. We have this nice events and holidays area. You can add suggestions if you want to, but we can also see. So let's go over here. I've got that August 7th, August 8th. We haven't quite picked up on that demand signal yet, but you can see that we do pick up on things even when we don't have a name for it. So Easter was already in there for you. But let's say you get some type of event coming in. We don't know what it is yet. We just know that people are on average booking at $1,400. So we're going to put it in here, and our team on the back end is going to go look and try to observe that. So this events and holidays area is constantly being monitored and updated to protect your calendar to help you make sure you maximize your revenue. Again, talking about Easter, but it's nice to see that you've got certain things. We're going into February 2026, seeing that there's a demand signal here. And with that, I'll stop my preaching, and we'll get back onto the Easter conversation.
And thank you so much, right, for cracking up neighborhood data and pacing reports, because it's exactly, and looking at different cases, because what we're doing here, as you said, right, we're talking about Easter 2025, but that's true for any, obviously, big event, big date in the future. It could also be good for, Christmas happens, on December 25th every year. You can do that for this, but this is also especially interesting here, this like this non-repeating, not on the same date, big event,
Mhm.
like, Easter being the obvious reason. So obviously, that's why I really like that you show the rest. Obviously, what we're seeing today can be applied to any other dates or big events. Um, I'm going a bit further in and going back to this here. I think it's a bit. So we talked about here, if I could present, we talked about this this check we should be doing. And now we're gonna be talking as if we're getting closer to the date.
Mhm.
So we did this mystery check. I just want to quickly cover this one. Is that obviously this thing you should be doing within PriceLabs, but we know you have a PMS, maybe you have your direct booking website. Obviously, you also want to take the pulse here, for example, right? Um, how are your direct bookings going? Have you, I guess, your marketing team has already written back to people who booked last year for Easter. It's not too late because in the end you still have 6 weeks. Last year same time you only had 3 weeks to get them to book direct. Now you have 6 weeks, so it's not too late to again write to people who came not for those dates but for this event for Easter, right? That's also again something to check with your marketing team, but I guess that's what they're doing. Same thing as well. Maybe it's getting late for that, but maybe you had a strategy until now where you were like, you know what, on the channels, on the OTAs, in terms of availability of pricing, I was kind of maybe, you know, my prices would be higher. Maybe I put a markup in my PMS. Maybe my best properties are not available on the channels. Maybe here now we're getting closer to the date. Maybe it's a time to think, you know what, as Kyle said, it's not time now to chase maybe the week-long bookings. Maybe it's time to think, okay, maybe I need to activate the OTAs a bit more, the channels. That's sort of the idea here, like these other things to have in mind that are directly influencing your marketing and distribution, and hence the bookings you may be getting.
And one good thing about that slide in particular, we talked about it before this, that right now this is not we're not able to do this within PriceLab, so to speak. You can do this directly from your PMS or anywhere like that. But having talked to our data team, we do get source data. So this is something over the coming months that we should start seeing inside that report builder tool, which we will show here in just a little bit as well. So while this isn't necessarily available inside of PriceLabs right now, it is in our future roadmap. So looking forward to being able to show this and break it down with my customers as well. I think this is super important and a good example of how you could do this if you analyze within your own PMS and you say like, okay, last year direct bookings kind of stopped 30 days out. Verbo bookings typically stopped 3 months out. I've got to now focus more on Airbnb rather than those direct bookings. Just by identifying that, you could go in and say, hey, at a 5%, um, you know, weekly discount or something like that, and try to get a little bit longer booking. Just hopping in there and trying to identify a pattern with these individual channels and then your direct bookings. If you are 100% direct booking, like some of my friends are in Branson, Missouri, and out in Myrtle Beach, this isn't quite as important to you, but it's probably a good idea to go in there and understand how the bookings are performing in market, which if you're looking at neighborhood data, you're typically going to get a reflection of Airbnb's market versus your direct. So comparing those two can be really impactful.
That's it. Um, All right, we did talk about how you need to get into your data. We talked about market dashboard. We saw portfolio analytics. We saw neighborhood data. These are really different tools you have to understand the patterns in your market. Anything else to add here, Kyle, about what to do to get those patterns in front of you?
I think I could honestly spend 3 hours going through market dashboards. I geek out over them. It's my one of my favorite things that PriceLabs offers. Um, but I think the best thing I could say right here is if you don't utilize market dashboards, please hop on one of our webinars and understand the power that's behind those. They're just getting faster and getting cleaner. We've got ready to view market dashboards now. If you're in, a lot of the prominent areas. So, we saw Coachella Valley. We've got one for Coachella Valley. We've got San Diego. All of those large markets, you've got pre-made ones. Um,
Yeah,
if you
and
want to, we could look at a dashboard and I could kind of go through and say like, hey, here's how I would use it and how I would look at it without us spending the whole time on it.
do you want to do it now? Or do you want to
Yeah, let's go. You wanna share your screen and you
let's
can
crack it
you can
open?
scroll and I'll just kind of go with you.
And what do you do? What do you Gatlinburg? What do you want?
Yeah, let's do Okaloosa just because I mentioned Gatlinburg all the time.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do Okaloosa. So if you will scroll up to the top,
Yep.
and I saw the Let's Do San Diego. Unfortunately, these dashboards take a little bit to load, so Tebow has them preloaded for us to kind of look at. So what you're looking at right here is just a super broad view. What we're looking at is everything Okaloosa Island that's on Airbnb. And what that is, if you look over to the left, is anything from a room up to an 8 bedroom. You can filter through here if you want to, but it's nice to kind of come in and look at all of this information. So if we look at it over the last year, Okaloosa Island has lost a little bit of occupancy, down about 3%. The booking window's compressed a little bit, about 4 days. RevPAR's up, bookings are up, overall revenue's up. This is a good indicator that the market's nice and healthy, so to speak. If you will, I'm going to have you, if you'll click the last 30 days, and let's see how it's performing kind of in the end. Yeah, well, actually, right there, he had
Right.
AI insights that breaks it down for you so that you don't have to go in and do what I just did and look at it and try to define it yourself, so to speak.
Sorry, I pulled the trigger too fast. Indeed, I clicked that button, AI Insights, as turning the data into some short text you can just read through.
Yep, exactly. The AI insights, I've got a customer that likes to turn that on, copy and paste it over into his AI, his GPT or whatever, and go from there to see what kind of recommendations he gets from his AI bot that he's trained. That's kind of cool. But now we're looking at the last 30 days, a lot of the same stuff that we see, but booking windows extra compressed now, 29 days, kind of makes sense. Occupancy is crushing. We're up 17% in the market. Revenue is crushing. This is all really good indicators. One other interesting indicator you look at over here, active listings is down. And it's been down over the last 365 days and it continues to be down. What that tells me is you're losing some of the fluff on Airbnb, so to speak. So
Hmm.
if you will, Tebow, let's scroll down a little bit.
Mhm.
Again, this is, I could spend hours and hours and hours talking about this. This area right here, you can build out comp sets to build out just like really in-depth information if you want to, that you can apply whether either in our pricing tools or in our portfolio analytics as well. Um, this is something I'm just going to kind of gloss over, but if you wanted to get some really good insights into top performers, if you wanted to get some really good insight into other property managers, you can figure that out from here as well. We have a column that you can add to that table that is called the host ID number. So if you go in and you search for, I forget exactly how it's worded, but like professionally managed high, dynamic pricing, low or none, and then go and search for that or host ID number, all of a sudden you just did your business development for an entire year. You've got 70 properties right there for you that, hey, they got opportunity, so to speak. But if you will, yeah, you've got AI right there to help sort that down.
Let's see again. Doing this live, so I don't know. Maybe.
Yep.
Hmm.
So that looked like it chunked off quite a bit for us. So that's just the ones that have dynamic pricing of some sort. We can go in there and do that much further if you wanted to as well.
Yeah.
We're not going to
And,
build any comp sets,
and to
just
be clear,
because it's, yeah.
and so just to mention, because Kyle said AI, so what it means basically here, maybe I want to filter things out. I don't know the exact filter that PriceLab is calling this. It doesn't matter. Just type what you think the word the thing should be, and with the AI behind the scenes, we're able to match what you're what you're typing with what we think is a filter you need, and just to apply it. So it's pretty fantastic.
And pet friendly bedroom, pet friendly 4 bedrooms that finish in the top 10% of the market. That's one of those type of prompts that you could use in there and get a really good comp set.
Right.
If you will, let's just kind of scroll down a little bit. And if you'll go kind of slow, but keep scrolling, there's a lot of information in here. I don't want to hit every single one of these, but you get full market information. Right here, this is a real, if you'll scroll past the summary table to the supply and demand,
Hmm.
this is really, really interesting to see. You can see that the active listings is pretty consistent. A lot of markets you hop into, you'll see it, straight through the roof. But if you will you hit that red box next to active listings? And let's change from total book nights to average bookings per listing. This is just a nice little metric to understand how well you've been performing. So if you will you hover over our February 2025 bar on the average booking, the one on the right side, if you don't mind, or
Oh,
sorry, the
okay.
left side.
Yes, of course. Active listings does make sense.
Perfect.
All
Yep.
right.
So right there, we're at 3.16 average bookings. Now, will you go look at February of 2024? So 2.97. That's a good indicator right there. Supply came down just a smidge, but demand continues to grow in the market.
Hmm.
Um, Again, just kind of scrolling down through here, price and occupancy trends. We're identifying very easily for you where you have opportunities. So that one right there is right after the area we're talking about for Easter. You can see there's plenty of love going into the summer right now for Okaloosa Island, but there's also that random one in October that you see. If you're from Okaloosa Island, you may know exactly what that is. I don't know exactly what it is right off the top of my head, but that's good for your revenue manager and for your team to hop in and say, hey, let's go make sure we're ready for this time period. Occupancy, you can see that's what we were showing earlier on in these red lines where you're at this year, grays where you were last year. Future prices, if you correlate these two, which it's hard to do because of the way that it's spread out right now, but if we look at it, you can see where the overall pricing curve is and where there may be some opportunity. So if you will, Thibaut, will you go to October 4th on this future prices graph? And let's see how the market's responding to that we see up there. Yeah, so right in here, you can see there's a little bit of a bump. Like if we look at that top pink layer compared to the weeks beside it, there is a bump for the pricing going up higher. Is that enough of a bump to warrant the 5% increase in occupancy that we're seeing? You never
October
know. So it's a
4
good
to
way to kind
10,
of hop
right?
in. Yep.
Indeed.
So if
4
you
to
will
10.
scroll down a little bit further.
It looks like it's the 10. It's October 4 to 10. Looks like really 10 is really
Hmm.
bumping. Yeah. Bump.
Yeah, they're taking care of that weekend right there.
Mm.
Yeah, and if you will, let's scroll down a little bit
Oh,
further. Day
scroll
of the
down.
week occupancy is great. You can understand, where people are traveling, but this can also give you an idea too if we correlate day of the week occupancy versus day of the week pricing factor. Is there an opportunity in the market where somebody may be, or you could go in and kind of change things? So if we look at it real quick, we see Tuesday's the lowest occupied day. It's 47.1%, right? Monday next to it is 48%. So there's not a huge difference, but yeah, you got it. So we got 38.6 and 37% on Tuesday. But if we look at the price factor over here, Monday's price factor is 253, Tuesday's is 254. So for some reason, the market has decided that a Tuesday's more valuable than a Monday overall, but occupancy doesn't reflect that. So what you could do is, hey, if my Tuesdays are kind of high, this gives me an indicator, you know, bring that baby back 1 to 2%. Maybe I get a little extra occupancy on my Tuesdays. I think that's a good way to kind of come in here and look. And you can see it really impacting over here on Wednesday as well. Our price factor is at 260. So our price is $6 higher on average, but our occupancy is the absolute lowest on Wednesday. There's no reason for us to have Wednesday pricing higher than Monday and Tuesday. I would look at this. If I were in Okaloosa Island, and I would say I want my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to be as close in pricing as possible. Way to look at that.
Mm.
Real quick, if you'll scroll down again, let's just breeze past this area. It's kind of confusing for most people. Length of stay booking windows, super important. You can come in here and see, hey, how far out are people booking and how many days are they booking with it? Don't want to spend a ton of time here, but we can see on average, most of your booking or most of the book nights come 2 to 4 months out in this market. And most of your bookings, if we look at that second graph, are going to be 7 to 14 days as well. That is most likely forced in the market. I think we know keeping minimum lengths high and all
Mhm.
that. This would be an indicator like, hey, if you want to come off those 7-14 nights, maybe you can differentiate yourself. Uh, Scroll down through here. Amenities. This isn't super impactful right now in the way you're looking at it because it's just saying all the listings have these amenities on here for you. But as you go in and you start dialing down and building out further comp sets, you get some really good information in here. So let's take a look real quick. Desired amenities, you got toaster, dining room table, bathtub, freezer. I think we know most people are not booking a place because it has a toaster. It just so happens a lot of the places or a lot of the places people are staying have a toaster. Okay. Dining table, same thing. Yeah, people want to have a dining table, but that's not a selling point, so to speak. Um, what I want us to do, I'm gonna note toaster and dining table. Okay, and then if you will, Tebow, let's scroll down and look at the last part of this. You can see your weekly discounts in the market, monthly discounts. Most people don't offer discounting. You can see your cleaning fees, cancellation policy, all the good stuff. If you don't mind, Tebow, over on the left where it says view comp set and it's Airbnb whole market, will you click that and let's just pick one of the pre-made comp sets for us. So like let's do top professionally managed 2 bedrooms. And if you'll apply filter, it's going to take a second for this to load up. But once this loads up, I want us to now understand that, hey, we're not just looking at the whole market. We're looking at the creme de la creme, the best professionally managed ones. And you can come in and start to see way different patterns with this. So what I would expect is we're probably going to see different amenities in there. We can see cleaning fees right there instantly updated for us. You got majority of bookings coming in at almost $300 cleaning fee. If you will, Tebow, will you scroll up for us? And let's look at that desired amenities where we were comparing toaster and dining room table. So now we see toaster. It's still in there, unfortunately, not very impactful, but all of a sudden waterfront's now there. So that helps us understand this. The waterfront properties are going to help us drive. And then let's see if anything else popped in here. Da, da, da. Nothing else
Mhm.
too, nothing else too impactful with this.
No,
If you
that's
let's scroll
good.
up and look at that day of the week pricing factor.
Yeah. And then maybe then we need to go back to the
Yep.
slide talk about discounting as we get close to Easter and the question. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, right, let's go up a little bit more, and then we'll do the day of the week pricing factor, and then we'll boogie off of that. So then you look over here, kind of the same thing that we see. Wednesday's the lowest occupied day. Similar trends. We need to get that Monday, Tuesday together. But yeah. Anyways, that's my 3 hour market dashboard condensed into 10 minutes. So yeah, let's hop back over to Easter.
All right. So we exactly as we said, we look at market dashboard to understand what's happening for this Easter compared with the other years, and we as we saw, right, market dashboard is something you don't just stop with the first view you get, you refine it with the concepts to really make it very useful to you, and we could see then you can even import this into the portfolio analytics. So it's super useful.
Absolutely.
So as we get closer to Easter, so to April 20th, what should people do, Kyle, on this one? So, at what point you think, you know what, I'm gonna start actioning some different levers?
Yeah, I think as of right now, so we're starting March, we're about 40 days out. A majority of you are in your booking window. If you have a studio property or a 1 bedroom, you may still have a little bit of time to get in line, but we need to make sure everything is in line right now. You can use market dashboards, kind of like how we went in there and looked, and you could see the weekly and the monthly discounts that are being offered. If you wanted to try to target a weekly stay around Easter, you could go in and offer a heavily incentivized weekly discount. but I would not suggest having a 7 night minimum length of stay while doing that as well. If you wanted to keep your rate kind of in the 50th, 75th percentile, um, but you want to pull that minimum length of stay back if possible. In regards to launching the promotions and things like that, I'm a big proponent of marketing having a big say in that lift for you. So making sure that you can identify within your systems previous Easter reservations that you had, um, identify previous opportunities around spring break and things like that's going to be very, very beneficial for you. If you rely heavily on OTAs, I would 100% suggest updating your title, and potentially your photo as well, just for the short period of time. You don't need to go in and have a an Easter themed photo or anything like that, but maybe getting in there and just doing a little bit of tweaking can benefit you. Within PriceLabs in particular, I would suggest if you wanted to get your rates in line a little bit quicker without you having to have your hands in it, I would look at our occupancy based adjustment and potentially turning that to an aggressive setting. If you don't want to do something like that where it's automated, you should probably go ahead and start tinkering your rate back a little bit if it hasn't been booked. Um, as you know, you've got last minute price drops already inside of PriceLabs, so you don't want to couple too much and be down too far. But make a plan and have an expected rate that you would like to hit. Like, let's say we're not booked by the 15th. Where should my rate get to? If I'm not booked by the 25th, where should my rate get to? PriceLabs is going to help get you there, but make sure that you have a plan for it. As a tip inside of PriceLabs, as you get closer to these I can't even think of the word, the date, as you get closer to the dates,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of going in. If you are somebody that does a little bit of the date specific override type stuff, going ahead and putting maximum caps on your rates. So, it's a busy, busy season. We've got demand signals. If we're already past our booking window, like if you're a 3 bedroom, a 4 bedroom, a five, or a six, go ahead on your calendar and say, hey, this is my maximum rate. Don't let it get above that, just to keep that parameter and have a little bit of extra control as well. Coupling that with some occupancy based adjustments can make your life super, super easy in PriceLabs.
Again, we have this great knowledge base in PriceLabs. Basically, if you type things such like occupancy-based adjustments, you have loads of like text and even some videos that can really help out. And obviously, you have the trainings. So we showed as well, thanks to Kyle, neighborhood data, market dashboard. We talked as well about grouping things at the beginning. We talked about looking at your pacing reports, which is very important. And obviously thinking about your own market. That's how we started. I want to finish with this before we take one of the questions. Obviously, as we said at the beginning, your market is different. Is it a ski market? Is it a beach market? You usually have like spring break here or where the school holidays falling in your country. That's all important. That's where, again, your knowledge comes on top of the automation that we can provide at PriceLabs. Because obviously the Easter we knew when it's happening, but you may have more information about things that make sense to you, right? So it's really the moment to do this midterm check. Really, really encourage you to do this. And I just want to go now, stop sharing and go and see whether there's any question we should be answering. Um,
Ooh,
see,
that's a good question right
go
there.
ahead.
Yeah, the strategy is focused on 28 plus nights. How do you suggest I adapt for Easter? That is a very specific question. I would say that we would need a little bit more information on like what market you're in, just so we can understand like what the booking window is. So, if you're able to get those 28 night stays and it's, somebody 3 nights in advance, you don't have to be as aggressive. But what I would say is go in there and identify the lowest rate that each night that's a weekday would need and go ahead and get your rate to it. So instead of thinking it as an individual rate 28 times, think of it as one total rate for 28 nights. Your weekends are going to be the most valuable period in there. Start focusing on those weekdays and lower your rates there. Don't hit your big heavy days, because that can be super impactful for you on algorithms, on the OTA algorithms. If they see that, hey, this person went from $85 on Monday down to $50 on Monday, that can boost you for that whole 28-day period. So I would say, without knowing more information about your actual setup and your location, focus on the least valuable days with any type of adjustments that you're making.
So, second question, if I may rephrase it, if PriceLabs, basically, if the algorithm accurately adjusts for those factors, right? Can you explain in what situations we might still need to apply some manual overrides further in advance?
Yes. So a great example would be if you have a home that has either a lot of blocks or maintenance type things. Those can artificially increase your rates, because the way we're picking it up, you don't have as much availability. So if you have like only that week available, I would suggest potentially bringing it back, because the overall occupancy picture for your month could increase it a little bit too much, so to speak. That's the main area I would look at. The other one would be if you're just not performing well at all. If your occupancy overall in March, April, and maybe even in May is not performing that well, you probably have an opportunity, one, within PriceLabs, to go check your base price and make sure that base price is correct and driving everything properly. But that would be an instance where I would look at it. If I'm looking and I'm saying, man, my calendar is not full or not filling up at all, that would be one of those instances I would go in there. There's always a chance too that, that base price is so important to everything, and it works across your entire calendar. So if you have a really high base price because your peak season rates need to be really, really high, there's always a chance that that high base price for peak season doesn't allow you to get down exactly where you need to be for these events that, they're driving, but they're not going to get you to 90% or 100% occupancy. Those instances would be where I would suggest maybe going in and doing a manual override. But if you've got to do more than a 10% manual override, you need to check your base price first, in my opinion, or your seasonal base prices if you have those set up.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for answering these questions live, showing things live. I hope we brought everybody some answered your questions you had. I checked out the questions. Some questions were actually about cracking open neighborhood data, but market dashboard, we just did this. So if you have further questions, obviously you know the email to use is support@pricelabs.co, support@pricelabs.co. This is again going to be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again at your own pace, so you can really get into the market dashboard. Don't forget the trainings. Nana, thanks for attending. It's very technical. You're getting there. And again, if market dashboard maybe was a lot, as exactly as Kyle said, we have a training for that. So just attend there. You can answer a question, and we go, way longer over this, and we really happy. So thank you so much for taking the time. Kyle, any things you want to add?
Yeah, I would say just that feedback. Nana or Nana, however it is pronounced, that feedback is super important for us here at Price Labs, because we understand, it is very technical, and we want our tool to be the best possible tool for everybody. So regardless if it's in one of these chats with a webinar, or you hit up support@pricelabs.co, if you have an issue or need some assistance, please let us know so that we can, one, help you in that moment, but two, also make our tool as valuable as possible down the road, and make it as easy for everybody to use as possible. But thank you all for joining us today. And if you ever want to reach out to me, I'm available on LinkedIn, Kyle Driscoll, Driskell. I've seen some of my customers in here, so looking forward to exchanging emails with you. And Thibaut, as always, fantastic. Thank you to you. Thank you to the team. Rafal and Aditya, thank you for your assistance with questions as well.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Middle, by the way, as well. And have
Oh
everybody
yeah,
have
Mirdal.
exactly have a great time. And you can get started with eating those Easter chocolates. You deserve it. All right. See you, everyone. Take care.
See you guys.